It's me, Vera, here to remind you that this is an adult podcast. That means we're going to deal with tough topics. Take a break if you need it, and be kind to yourself, because we sure won't be.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stitch of Fate, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition podcast. As always, I am your storyteller, Mike Martin, joined by 4 players, all 4 of you today, again, 2 weeks in a row. Dot, Bub, Josh, and Mark. Hey, guys, how's it going?
It's good. It's right after Thanksgiving. I'm thankful to be at the family table with everybody again this week.
With your cousin. Your cousin's here. He hasn't left. He's been bumming it on your couch now for a little while. The cousin that you thought you left in your past, and here he is.
But we get to take those special walks before and after dinner.
That's true. You do get to go have your special walks with your cousin. You can reminisce about old times that you can't really reminisce about with the other coterie members.
I don't know what you're talking about. Thanksgiving was in October.
Yes, it's true.
I don't know what any
Honestly,
of this
it's like
I'm Canadian.
Exactly. There's really only half the cast is American Thanksgiving celebration. But yeah, for those who celebrate, I hope you all had a good holiday. I hope it was a nice, relaxing week filled with good food, family, and friends, and you stayed safe. We are excited to be back at the table, but before we get into the game, as always, a big thank you to everybody over at the Patreon. Without you guys, this show wouldn't be continuing, and the things that are coming down the pipeline would not even be in existence. That's all we really can say right now, at least unless you want to say more. But if you guys want to support the show and directly kind of like jump in and keep the show afloat, head over to patreon.com/podbynight. You get a bunch of little bonus features, behind the scenes stuff, little special colors on your name, and access to a private room over in the Discord. So go check it out. It really does a huge amount for the show and keeps us going forward. Dot, I don't know, is there anything we want to talk about today? Because it's a week before a certain holiday special thing by the time people listen to this.
Well, I guess we could give our first little sneak preview. We are going to have another holiday live show. So for those of you that missed last year's World of Darkness charity stream, we're kind of bringing it back, but this time on our own accord. We will be launching the Pod by Night Twitch channel. Maybe that's a little precursor to what you can expect for some future things. But for now, you'll be able to catch our 2-hour holiday special coming up the 14th. Of December.
Yeah. 1 week from, or a little under a week, or a week or something like that, from 2 weeks from today.
Which doesn't help all of you because we're doing this in the past.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm trying to do like future time right now in my head, and I'm like trying to figure it out.
December 14th.
Yeah, it's the 14th of December for whenever you guys are listening.
I believe we're live at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Right. Yes, that'll be great. It'll be fun. I'm excited to do another live stream and holiday special with you guys. Other than that, head over to our socials. There's a link tree there. I'll show you everything you need to get. You can go click on those. It can bring you to the Patreon. It can bring you to our merch website. We got t-shirts, mugs, notebooks, and all kinds of good stuff. And over to the Discord. Is that it? Did we get everything?
Done.
Okay, checklist marked. I guess it's time to head back into the world, everybody. So let's rein things in, set things up, and see what our coterie is up to. The scene opens with idle chatter. Familiar voices through thick concrete walls as our vision is brought down a familiar set of stairs into a basement that our coterie has spent much of their time in recently. And as the camera and our eyes move with it along into a very familiar room, that muffled conversation becomes more clear. It looks as though the 4 of our coterie members are getting ready for something. Not sitting down and relaxing, but tying up shoes, and you can see Vera putting on... What would Vera be wearing for a night like this as the camera immediately focuses on Vera?
Oh. Well, this is an important night. And she can't look like she came out of a costume closet. Oh my, what would she do? I imagine, because one of the reasons she has John around is because he's really, really good with the needle and thread. She had to maybe work something up. It's definitely not black vinyl or leather, but a nice dress, as much as it's hard for her to even say that word, that she would wear one, but she does. She puts on a nice dress, long heels, and tries to make the best of a little.
You know, let me open up our game here, and let me make a crafting roll for John. And let's see how well he does. And let's see if your Bane comes into effect.
I mean, he used to Stitcher and all the other stuff. Maybe he can work something
ugly. Up. Yeah, he doesn't have a small dice pool for it, I'm sure. But he could roll.
Do we even have a John character sheet?
We don't. I'm going to give him a base dice pool of 6 with a +1 for a specialty in threading. So he'll have a dice pool of 7 here.
Okay, that's not too shabby.
He's old. He's got experience. Wow. I rolled 1 success. John is probably on his knees right now while Vera is standing there as he's doing his last bits of hemming and little finishing touches on the outfit that he's been working on. And you know, as the camera rolls into the room and we see the 4 coterie members standing about in their normal spaces, maybe Sav is pacing and doesn't really know where to kind of keep himself at this point. You do hear John's little shuffling as his knees readjust as he lifts up a small piece of the dress and starts to stitch away at it underneath. But the camera focuses on Vera.
Thank you, John. That's enough.
He quickly pulls the needle back and he puts it between his teeth and he looks up. Are you sure, madam? I'm not sure this is exactly how I'd like it. But, and he kind of like looks like he wants to fiddle with it just a little longer.
It's okay, John. You have done a brilliant job with what we had.
Does Vera bring her hand down to help him up? Is that something that she would just do automatically? It's a small touch, but as you do so, because you would see John immediately look to grab a nearby railing or wall to help himself up, but as Vera puts her hand down, he very immediately grabs it, and you help him without any effort. He brings himself to his feet as he tucks away what little thread he has in his front pocket, and he holds the needle in his mouth and is, anything else I can do for you tonight, madam?
Maybe a set of elbow-length gloves. I bet we've got some in the accessory closet.
He simply nods and he kind of wags his finger but doesn't say anything before he slowly turns around and shuffles his way out of the room, leaving the coterie to themselves.
Vera probably turns around and displays this very humbling dress. Well, we're going to have to ask for help tonight. Might as well look humble.
And as our vision goes from Vera, blur pans over to Duke. Duke, are you wearing what you always wear for this evening?
Yes, I think so. It's going to be a matter of comfort, right? Meeting his sire, or at least what he believes is his sire. I don't know. I feel like this is going to be a formal, yet like a calling of old friends, or at least that's what he's looking forward to.
And as it focuses, that kind of tense silence still lingers about the room. It's only been maybe a couple of nights since news of Sean's fate has crossed through the coterie and what's happened to him, and the joining of Sav entering this trusted circle for the time being. I'm sure there's a lot of perhaps just tension, like I said, tension around the coterie this evening before having to move out and start playing like things are normal, talking to sires Aster and Cesar tonight if they are to be there. But Max is looking to head out as well, and I'm curious if he would have invited if he had invited Sav around, and what Sav is even doing at this point, not really aware of what's happening at this particular juncture, as you've only been around for maybe a couple of evenings.
I think Sav has been very quiet, just absorbing information, trying to be courteous and amenable to everyone's requests, but making it very clear that he does not work for them.
Is Sav the kind of guy, like a typical Lasombra, who finds the darkest corner in the room and sticks to it?
No. I think he's avoiding dark corners. He's trying to be as unsuspicious as possible.
And what about Max?
Max actually is walking towards Sav right now, and he throws over his shoulder, don't worry about it, Vera, you look great. As he turns back to Sav, he extends his hand, and he's holding a battered pack of cigarettes. He pushes it open with his thumb and offers it to Sav.
Oh, thank you. And he takes one, it's like Z-shaped, straightens it out, and then... yeah, lights it and is just like, I don't think I've done this. I don't think I've done this since maybe a few years after I died. It was weird.
Yeah, well, you know, it looks cool.
You're right.
Anyhow, sorry I had to smack you in the puss when we first crossed paths there, Sev.
Not many people apologize for that, so I will assume it is sincere. Thank you.
Yeah, sure it's sincere. I mean, if Vera says you're okay, then I guess
I'm
you're
not
okay.
sorry for the ice picks and all. Just so you know.
I always know.
Oh.
No, not the welcome I was hoping for, but the welcome I expected. So, like I said, I didn't come here to fight.
Yeah, well,
But I know my reputation.
yeah, well, you're just lucky I pulled that punch a little bit. Otherwise, my fist would have come out
Oh,
through
yeah?
the back of your skull.
You're lucky I didn't fight at all.
Yeah, you just kind of flopped
I
around a little
didn't
bit
want
there,
to
didn't you?
fight. You know, there's times when diplomacy, apparently, are more useful.
Okay, let's not turn this into a pissing contest, all right? I said I was sorry.
Apology accepted.
Oh, look at this, getting along so well. Max, would you like to take Sav out on the town?
Yeah, sure, Vera. What do you have in mind?
Well, there are a few things we need to follow up on, and moving the package is A+ number one. But maybe looking into that moving truck.
Yeah, sure, we can take care of that. You sure you don't want me around for a little bit of backup?
I imagine if things go south tonight, there's no coming back anyways, Max.
Okay, you're the boss. Come on, Sav, let's go.
Sure. Tell me where we're going.
Well, we got a few things to take care of. Lining up that truck is one. Scouting out a new location would be another. And I assume you're going to want me to pay a little visit to Lawson's nearest and dearest.
Would you?
Yeah, sure, of course. But I'm just keeping tabs on
Yes,
them, right?
of course. Just. They're leaving, right? All we can do is at least get our last look. They are the only lifeline we have to Larson.
You got it. All right, come on, friend. Let's go.
Max, I should mention, because he knows he's going out, has ditched the bathrobe and he's in his usual out and about wear, which is his long trench coat and hoodie with the flak jacket beneath, and all his weapons.
I imagine since Sav doesn't really know where you're going, do you go out invisibly, or do you stay visible so he can follow you around?
You can give me an address.
Probably.
That's true. You could give him the address as well.
Yeah, Max doesn't risk being seen except in the most extreme circumstances, so he's probably going to go invisible as soon as he gets up there.
Keeping that in mind. Max kind of plods his way out of the room with Sav very shortly in tow, but our camera lingers in this room with Vera and Duke now standing solo before you hear the distant shuffles of John. As John walks around the corner, he's holding these elbow-length, gorgeous white gloves that, as he makes his way over to you, he simply just kind of brings them up for you to take.
A true hero, John. She, slides them on. Maybe this outfit will do. And she puts a tiny pillbox hat on, brings kind of the little veil down, much smaller than the last hat.
He simply says, "Gorgeous as always, Miss Vera," and he slowly turns to leave.
Just on his way out, I say, take the rest of the night off. John, put your feet up. There's literally no club to clean.
He turns his head just enough so you can catch the whites of his eyes as he looks over to you. He's like, "Well, my room is rather dirty, and I've ignored it for a few nights now. Maybe I'll take care of it tonight." And he thinks for a minute before you see him chewing his bottom lip, and he leaves.
I'm nervous, Duke.
I expected as such, Vera. Why?
Why wouldn't I be? I've worked my entire second life trying to get out from under the thumb of my sire, and now I come crawling back. It's like a broke college kid.
Rarely do we find ourselves in situations where we can rebuild, re-identify, reimagine, and you find yourself in a particular situation where you can do just that. Vera, we're dead. Twice over. They're not expecting us. We have the upper hand.
Always so reassuring, Duke. I guess that is true, and a perspective I had not thought about. And in honesty, I look forward to meeting your sire. You have nothing but good things to say.
Cesar is almost purely business. He's a trophy collector, and his use of language and lingo in general might upset many, but for me, I don't find it as such.
Maybe I won't either. Though it does seem peculiar, he has found his way to Aster, who is lackluster with language and floppy with his money.
Money finds money. Again, numbers. They're honest.
It's true. So, thoughts on how to play this?
We play loose and fast. Honest to a degree. We don't speak about things that might expose more than we need to. We leave the prince out of this. We do still have to move her.
Yes, I know. I will have to see if his shop is available to hold such a rare item. But I imagine that before it's over with, we'll be able to move her.
On a side note, Vera, I find myself in a rare situation where I don't get you alone often, especially now since Sean is gone, and now that we have Sava. I want your honest opinion of him.
Who?
Sava.
Well, of all the miscreants I've troped about with, he's not the worst.
I'm finding it difficult to be in his company due to, I believe, my own personal issues. I find him sitting where Sean sat, lingering where Sean would linger, and it's becoming cumbersome, taking over my mind a bit.
Duke, are you grieving?
We do in different ways, Vera. In different ways.
Well, since I don't lie, I will tell you he's not a replacement for Sean. Because for whatever reason, I don't believe Sean's gone. Not until I see it. Words are thin sometimes. And I know for whatever reason you trust Mia, and maybe we should. But I am not so moved to believe everything that comes across my doorstep. But I too am struggling with his absence.
I suppose I will take more of a few steps back and I will cut Sav some slack. It's only fair.
He seems to be as much a pawn in this as we are. For Mia to track him down, I thought him dead for nigh on a few decades. It seems that he is potentially muddled into something that is far beyond his understanding. And all what? Because he wants a new start.
Isn't that what everyone wants? A fresh start.
Yes. I think I would like that, though it wouldn't be the first time. I feel like I've started over and over and over. That is really the only cycle.
For what it's worth, Vera, I don't immediately trust everything that Mia says.
Oh, That is reassuring.
Everyone has a play. They have something that they would like to accomplish, and they believe that everyone around them is going to do it for them. They're tippling ideas and thoughts, hoping that they can provoke us, or anyone for that matter.
I'll be honest, I find it a bit odd. One, she sent somebody I had a connection with, Duke. Shared a lot with, regardless of how much of myself it actually was. I've known him longer than I've known you. So she sought out somebody close to me, and I can't quite understand why. Because she had to know when she sent him it wasn't going to start out with hugs and handshakes.
My question is, how did she know that you two were connected?
Yes, my thought exactly. It has plagued me for the last few nights. I imagine Meer is not as old as I am. So how did she know? Because I can't imagine Larson does either. He was not privy to such information.
Was Savah a former coterie mate?
We did not call them coteries, but yes, to some degree.
Then I suppose then you should start looking at the others that were in your not so coterie.
Here's the thing. They are all presumed dead as well. The Battle of New York was said to wipe them out. But one has come knocking on my doorstep.
Then let's presume for a moment that none of them are dead. They're all in hiding, which is ideal for a kindred.
Well, what if they're not? What if they're not in hiding?
Only you would know this. Not that they're hiding, but whom they might be.
I will be honest, Duke. As much as I fear the dinner we're about to go to, I fear them more. If that is true, of course. Well, no need to be late. Aster will never let us live it down.
Let's leave, Vera. Let's leave.
And on that, we see Vera and Duke both turn toward the door and begin to make their way out. You have reservations this evening at a restaurant that requires months of reservations in advance. It's a small little place called Le Artusi. It's a little restaurant on the west side of New York, a small brick building amongst other nameless brick buildings. And when your cab pulls up and drops you off, rather when John pulls up and drops you off, unless you do take a cab, I apologize. You did give John the night off, so how do you get there?
I mean, we do own a car. We could drive ourselves?
Whatever is your creature comfort, Vera. You're a Toreador, after all. I can chauffeur you around.
Can I even drive? I don't have the drive skill, but I'm sure I could figure it out.
Yeah, drive skill really only helps you like speed up the drive. Everybody can kind of like drive as though you need to. But I wanted to make a joke. It wouldn't be the first time Duke was chauffeuring around women. It's just Ed Kemper's favorite thing to do.
Dark humor, Mathis.
Oh, yeah. So are you driving, Vera, or is Duke chauffeuring?
Duke.
I just want to know the picture in my head. It's not any details specific. I just need to know.
I imagine Vera has the keys and she goes, I'm not actually wearing my driving gloves.
Right. Well, he reaches over and plucks the keys from you. And he fetches our wagon of sorts. What is this? I don't even think I know.
I imagine it's just like, in the past it's been like an SUV, like a basic blacked out windows type thing.
Like an Escalade type thing, or
maybe even like not as nice as an Escalade. I don't know what the Ford version, the American version of the.
It's a Suburban.
A Suburban of some kind.
Suburban.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. So that's what he pulls up with, and you make your way out. As you arrive at this place, as your Suburban drives up, and you leave it with valet parking as you would. like I said, this is a small brick building that is featureless and nameless against a bunch of other nameless, featureless brick buildings. The road itself is extremely narrow, and you wouldn't even know that this is a restaurant lest you have been here before or a friend told you about it. And it is entirely unassuming. As you make your way through the front door, though, it gives way and truly displays itself for what it is. It's a 2-level, gorgeous little Italian restaurant with these almost like home-like features. The second floor in particular has this almost 50s, 60s kind of kitchen feel with a marble island that only sits 5 people and small tables behind it that can only sit up to maximum of 4. And they're rather spaced out, giving a lot of privacy to those who have it. But as you walk in, the name that you would give, out of curiosity, the name that you gave your sires, what was it? Because that'd be the name on the reservation list that you would have to enter with. Make something up. It's all good.
Sure. Max DeVeo.
As you walk up and enter through the front door, there's somebody greeting and asks if you have reservations, and you give Max DeVeo as the name, and they quickly look down a quick paper list and say, you're joining the party upstairs. Enjoy your evening and enjoy the food. And they smile pleasantly as they allow you to pass by. The stairs are on the left-hand side, right up against the wall, and on the bottom first floor. It's like the main restaurant here. And it is not very full, at least not now, as the restaurant has only just opened a few moments ago as the night gets going. And as you make your way up the stairs, you're greeted with an entirely empty room. There are empty tables. The bar itself is completely empty, save the single bartender in the back making some sort of drink. And as they hear the footsteps making their way up the stairs, they spin around mid-shake, and they smile. And they look to you and say, party with Max DeVeo?
Curt nod.
They gesture to the entire room. The place is yours. Choose where you wish to sit. And can I make you anything to drink?
Vodka rocks.
Vodka rocks, and points to Duke.
Cosmopolitan, please.
They nod and says, I'll get it right out for you. And then they turn their back to you and start shaking it. Do you make your way to the bar or a table?
Probably a table, I think.
Okay. As you sit down, the two of you kind of place yourselves at the table. You watch the bartender making some sort of finished mixed drink, and as it's wrapping up, it's got a cherry on the very top. It's a perfect gradient of dark pink at the bottom all the way to a bright orange yellow. And a server comes up the stairs and quickly grabs it and whisks it away downstairs without saying nigh a word. But it's obvious that you are alone. Not only are you on time, but now the clock has ticked over a few minutes. You've been left to your own devices at this point for probably close to 10 minutes. Do the two of you have any conversation? Do you quietly wait and just kind of hope that they arrive?
This is a very business-like meeting, and he is not expecting the same sort of meeting that I believe Vera is expecting out of Aster. So it's likely that there's like a single like black bifold folder in front of Duke with his same silver pen that's had like the metal aluminum bent on it just to the side. It's very uniform, and he's down to entertain conversation, but certainly not leading that conversation.
Sure. And so that would leave it to Vera to lead.
I imagine she's a bit too nervous to talk too much. You might see her like fingers tap along the table or along her glass.
Play with the drink?
Yeah, play with the drink. And after about 10 minutes, Vera will look to Duke and say, do you think he stood us up?
It would be very unlike Cesar to do this. I believe that we may want to wait just a bit longer. Is this like Aster?
Oh, you mean having everybody else at his beck and call? Yes, seems just like Aster. Fashionably late, he would call it.
And this is frustrating to my sire. We'll find quickly that he's going to be rather disturbed by this truancy.
The last question I have. Do you blush of life? You can't drink without blushing of life. So do your drinks sit in front of you idly, or do you actually rouse the blood and bring your body to some sort of faux living state?
Vera will.
Duke will not.
Okay, feel free to rouse check for me.
Duke just
will
plays
not.
with his drink.
Fair enough.
I imagine too, because she's going to look. If we're sitting here for 10 minutes, she's got to smoke something.
Sure.
Maybe she wiggles a cigarette out of the bartender. I don't know, but she's gonna smoke something while she sits here. A 1. Wouldn't you know
So
it?
you just gain a hunger.
Wouldn't you know it?
But you can feel, and Vera doesn't do this very often. But for those who are unfamiliar with what Blush of Life is, as is something we haven't done often in the podcast, is as Vera focuses for a moment, it's as though her body cold starts. She can feel her lungs kind of breathe in and breathe out. Her heart begins to beat. Her blood begins to go warm so that her skin, upon touching any other mortal or anybody who is not kindred, would feel as though they were a living human being. And the color returns to her face enough so that that slight corpse-like look that all kindred tend to carry seems to dissipate as mortality fakes itself within Vera. And now you can enjoy a drink. You can enjoy the taste on your taste buds, and you can keep the drink down for as long as Blush of Life lasts. As you do so, and you actually do watch Vera take a deep breath and begin to breathe normally and really kind of facilitate life again as a mortal, you can hear sounds like footsteps making their way up the stairs from the base. And unlike the server's footsteps, they don't have that hurry run up them. They have a casualness to them. And there's certainly more than one, as you can hear, not only conversation, but the footsteps themselves are not rhythmic, stepping over one another. Just, it doesn't sound like it's one you can follow easily. And as they make their way up the stairs, you can now very clearly hear, at least for Vera, a very recognizable voice as he's mid-conversation in this long, elaborate story. And as they come into vision, you can see his arm hanging over the shoulder of your sire, Duke. The description of these two are pretty straightforward, but I'm going to allow each of you to describe the physical features. I can look at a picture of Caesar if you want, but I'm going to hand it over to Vera first. This is our first time seeing your sire in person that hasn't been in a flashback. The way he's dressed is gaudy, of course. A gorgeous royal blue suit all the way down with this deep orange tie that goes down from his neck and passed into his suit. And he has a very short, kept hair. But what does he physically look like? Is he, take it away, Vera.
He's actually a rather short man who makes up for it by boisterous conversation and his money. He might even adorn a fur coat on the occasion, like a man's fur coat. He's a bit eccentric, and I imagine his shoes are pointed and shiny.
Oh, sure. And polished to a T.
Yeah. No facial hair,
nope.
well-groomed man.
You say short. How tall is he?
Probably not even 5'6", 5'7".
Oh, yeah, okay. So he's like 5'5", 5'6", somewhere around there.
Yeah, he's a, like I said, he's kind of a shorter gentleman.
And by his side is your sire, Duke. Duke, what does Cesar look like?
Cesar is what appears to be a Latino man in his late 30s, early 40s. He's got like the 5 o'clock shadow. It looks like he almost has that salt and pepper look coming into his hair. He is wearing like a dark gray business suit with a black button-up and a very striking like royal blue tie going down. And the shoes are exquisite. They look like they were taken right off the showroom floor. And he moves with confidence.
And to any normal eye, a mortal eye, the two of them look like they're worth more than anybody could possibly imagine. Name brand on everything, suited fit exactly to their stature. And how tall is Cesar?
Cesar is right under 6 feet tall.
Okay, so Arturo's arm wouldn't be around Cesar's shoulder. He'd be patting his back as he's finishing his story. And you hear Arturo's voice kind of ring out into the empty room. And I told you, I wasn't fully expecting it, but I had my hunch. And he pats the back one more time, and as they round the staircase and spin, their eyes are laid upon you. Do you both stand from your seats, or do you both stay sitting?
I'll rise.
Duke rises. What about
I
you?
will as well. It's the polite thing to do.
And as they lay eyes upon you and you upon them, having finally coming to this meeting that you've been eagerly anticipating for about a week at this point now, there is not a moment of hesitation on Arturo's face. he does not seem surprised. He does not seem taken aback to see you. In fact, he strides forward, breaking away from Cesar, walking directly to you, Vera. And he kind of brings his arms out and just does one of these up and down, and he has this wry smirk at the corner of his mouth. And he's like, Vera, I am, well, I would say pleasantly surprised if I was surprised, but I'm happy to see you. May I? And he comes over for a hug.
I put my hands up like he knows the rule, which is no touch.
Of course he does.
And she says, well, I guess the pleasure is all yours, Arturo.
He kind of like chews on that for a moment with a grin, and he gestures to the chair. May I?
You're paying for dinner.
That's true. I am. And he slides the chair out and he sits in. He gestures to Cesar, who is slowly making his way over. He's locked eyes with Duke in particular. And as he walks over, he simply puts his left hand on your shoulder and then brings it up to your chin and kind of cocks your head to the left and to the right. And as he does so and brings his hand down, he's like, my boy, it is good to see you. And I am glad to see you as well. Sit, please.
I will.
Cesar looks to the empty chair, pulls it out without asking, and simply sits. And he looks to Arturo. He had suggested we wait to ensure that those we were doing business with were those they said they were. So we kept eyes on the place. And when you walked in, Arturo just butts in. I cackled louder than I have in probably a damn fucking decade. I cannot believe it. I'm surprised, and yet, like I said, I'm not. Vera, I taught you well.
Oh, Arturo, you didn't teach me anything.
We can agree to disagree there.
We always have.
He folds his hands.
It is a pleasure to meet you. I just turn away from Arturo, over to Duke's sire. It is an absolute pleasure.
He simply reaches out to shake your hand, but stays wordless with you. He simply kind of keeps a very stoic face as he sits there, and he looks behind him to the bartender and merely makes a gesture, and the bartender immediately starts working on a couple of things.
If he puts his hand out to shake it, Vera makes sure to shake it right in front of Arturo's face, because he did not get to touch her.
Absolutely. You watch Arturo's eyes, clearly clock that, but the expression on his face never changes. Cesar continues. This certainly makes things difficult, as I was taking care of business and attempting to take this place in your absence with the assumption that all of you had been deceased. Now this throws a kink in the works. The Cameron is under the assumption that the both of you are also deceased, so this certainly makes things a little bit more difficult for us moving forward. Any care to explain what happened and why now, of all times, you decide to walk out from your holes and make yourselves known?
This is Arturo asking this, or this is Cesar?
No, Cesar.
I'll kind of look to Vera and nod, and I'll lead the conversation. Well, Cesar, we were attacked in our home. There was an issue that arose, and we found ourselves under the grace and presence of hunters, believed to be Inquisition, potentially Leopold. I took a shot to the arm, and a few of my allies had also taken similar wounds. We needed moments to recover. We also needed them to think that we had died.
Cesar lets that settle on the table for a moment, and in that silence, the bartender makes his way over and drops off the drinks for Cesar and for Arturo before walking away, and Cesar continues the conversation after the drinks have been placed. And then why didn't you come to me, my boy?
Well, Cesar, you have to admit it is rather difficult reaching out to you these days. The chain of command doesn't immediately allow for congress between the two of us as frequently as it once did. You are busy, very busy. I respect your time, and I knew that you would be here. Admittedly, I expected that you would be on time.
He gestures to Arturo, and Arturo says, It is my fault. I do apologize for that. Like I said, I wanted to wait outside. I wanted to see who walked in that building. And then I started to laugh, and me and Cesar just got into a long conversation, and here we are. And Cesar kind of puts his hand up, like just cutting the conversation off.
We knew it was serious, Cesar. We were wrapped up and involved in some things that kept us pretty preoccupied. So much so that in the midst of it all, our sheriff had gone missing as well.
Yes. The government certainly is in a bizarre situation although it seems to have at least stabilized itself in the present moment. Beside that, that's beside the point. You still throw us in a precarious situation. We were to take this territory that once belonged to the Camarilla members, your own, and now passed, and we were to take it back and reintegrate it, and perhaps either give it to our own domains or perhaps hand it over to the prince. Details, we haven't really figured that out yet. But now, the rightful owners, so to speak, are still alive. Paperwork is well underway. What do you suggest we do in this situation?
I suppose we have to come to some sort of agreement, wouldn't you agree?
I would, and I would prefer that agreement be you leave them, Duke, and come back and work for me again. You can be safer under my employ, you can work within my businesses, you'll have my ear a lot easier. And reintegration to the Camarilla will be a lot less problematic if I'm the one to bring you back in.
Cesar, if I can, I wish to bend your ear about something that's not necessarily this particular topic. Personally, as an individual, one that's driven by comforts and things that wind you. You told me a while ago that there are things that you must see to finish, that you must stay on top of. It took me a while to identify what that meant, to figure out what it was that wound me, that kept me moving forward. And no doubt you saw these things much before I did. Otherwise, you would not have reached out to me in the way that you had when I was sired. I say this because my job is not finished. My sense of obligation still remains. I must see some things through before I look to future employ. And I found my own puzzle that's keeping me quite wrapped up at the moment.
He doesn't look confused. He raises an eyebrow, however. This puzzle, this conundrum, it's keeping you busy from what? Why does this conundrum and puzzle require the faux deaths of the both of you? Is this to imply that Max and Sean are still alive as well?
You recognize the Nosferatu there. Forgive me. And looks to Barry when he says it, forgive me. They're like cockroaches. They do not die so easily. They persist. Maxwell is alive. Sean is missing.
He seems to think on that for maybe a half a second before he just continues listening.
But yes, to further answer your question, yes, there are things that are preventing me. What that is not as easily definable, but I can feel it when I have very few connections to the living and the unliving world.
Arturo cuts you off. So are you telling me that the four of you, or three of you, however many are around, are preferring to stay, and he gives these ginormous air quotes with these fingers, dead in the eyes of the Camarilla?
In the eyes of everyone, Arturo. It sounds like you weren't listening.
No, I just wanted to make sure. I had a clear understanding of what you're hoping for going forward here.
It is not the plan long term. Cesar, you seem to want to talk business. The fact of the matter is, I worked very, very hard to acquire that piece of property through all the right means.
I don't disagree.
I would like to know, what did you plan to do with it?
If I'm totally honest, I hadn't made a plan to do anything quite yet. The first step was to simply ensure ownership under a kindred name. From there, he looks to Arturo. I finance. He manages. And Arturo just smiles. I was thinking a club. Maybe a personal one. VIP access only. Everybody would love to come to one of my clubs. I don't often open one nowadays. And out in this little dingy area of the city, we could start to bring some real money over there.
Yes. What if Duke managed it?
Managed my club, as Arturo kind of just blurts out forward.
Well, there are multiple ideas on the table, Arturo. It's not always about you.
He
I know that might be
smiles.
hard for you to
That is-
swallow, but it's completely true.
Amuse me. Why would we even go along with this in the first place?
Our plan was
Why not continue the paperwork and simply take the property under our own name? What, are you going to come out of the woodwork and claim it for your own? I really think the prince would love to see the two of you return.
We have plans to return. We had plans to rebuild the club. Unfortunately, we're not moving quite as fast as your business seems to.
When you have power and money, time is nothing.
Then I have a question for the both of you. If you insist on moving forward with this ab initio plan, this mockery of our known names and reputation, what are you to do about any of the threats that lie in the area that we have under control?
Arturo looks to go say something, and Cesar immediately puts his hand up. We would have more resources at our fingertips than you would. Security would be doubled.
Security. What sort of security?
Anything from private security that we hire around the clock 24/7 to other means and methods that require communication with other
And what do you intend to do about the burrow of werewolves?
Burrow of werewolves?
Yes. There is a drug trade that moves through the area, and they're tied closely to lupine.
I thought you were... He shakes his head. That is certainly something that we would have to speak with the Chantry with, perhaps even speak with the council. But before we move into the details of how we're going to handle things, let me ask a question in turn. Say we do go along with this. We allow you to keep ownership. We require quite a lot of back-end paperwork on our end, but also require a bit of a lie falling from our lips to the council as to what's happening with the property. Not something we can't manage, but certainly adds a few kinks to the pathway that we were hoping for. What exactly can you offer us in turn for not going through with this? Other than goodwill.
We can't.
Cesar just nods while Arturo smiles. But Arturo goes from Vera, then looks at Duke to see if Duke says anything.
It doesn't matter what it is I have to offer. What matters is what it is you are asking. You have something in mind. It's the nature of your
Cesar
creature.
shakes his head. I have nothing in mind when it comes to you, Duke. I'm simply curious what do you have to offer on the table. I have a fondness for you. I have fondness for all those that I make mine. You know this. And I would like to be able to assist you here, to the best of my ability if possible, but it has to be something that's... Well, it can't look so suspicious, at least on the front. I'm curious if there's anything you can offer. If there's not, and Arturo cuts in, I'm sure I can think of something.
Yes, I'm sure you can.
We could simply ask for a cut of the profits. Or, well, we can make it a little easier. We continue with the paperwork, but we give you a cut of the profits as well, and allow you to stay there as long as needed. Paperwork would still sit under our name, but you'd have access to the club as needed. However, I would want Vera to perform every so often.
It is a performance house, isn't it, Arturo?
He smiles. I would make sure it stayed that way. It wouldn't be the first time that place has been rebuilt.
You recognize that a cut of the profits might be very little at first.
Understandably, but the plan would just still be to finance the place with an exceptional amount of money to ensure that the area is seeing an influx of new clientele.
I would like to propose that we manage it. It is something we were doing with great success before the unfortunate accident.
Under new names, Arturo kicks in. New identities.
That would have to be par for the course, right, Duke?
As a private contractor, my name is not on anything short of legal documents.
I guess I will find a mask to put mine under.
Cesar nods. Yes, and my finances and my companies are my own. I don't expect anybody to be digging through those papers without my knowledge. It'd be relatively easy to keep. Arturo then leans in, elbows on the table before finishing the last swig of his alcohol and sliding it to the side. Then I want you to perform monthly. If you're to manage this club under our name, taking a cut of our profits, living on our territory within our domain, I want you to work the last day of every month.
Fine. We handle security if I'm going to dance.
Cesar leans forward. Security will fall under my foray, but I'm happy to discuss things with you to ensure that everybody feels as though they're taken care of.
I would simply ask that Max is maybe head of that team?
I would want to meet Max, but I won't say no immediately. Nosferatu can be very valuable on the security side of things. Arturo then kicks back to his chair. Did not think I'd be coming in here today, getting to see my dear Vera, and getting to know that I will be able to see my Vera perform again. It has been many years. Has she told you how long it's been, Duke? And he looks over to Duke before he looks back to Vera, not even allowing him to answer the question. Years. I knew this day would come. You know, Chelsea's probably going to be rather upset, but...
It's Vera, not Chelsea.
Oh, no, dear. When I heard you died, I sought permission from... I have a new child. And he smiles. Not a dancer like you. Still a performer in some way, but I am thrilled that you and I will get to spend time together again.
Congratulations, Aster.
Thank you.
May she leave you as well.
He goes to swig at his drink, forgetting it's empty. Clear for a moment, you clearly got to him as he puts the drink down uncomfortably, and he's like, we can only hope history doesn't repeat itself, Vera. And he smiles.
Aster, you're a kindred. History always repeats itself.
Cesar, trying to cut the awkward tension at the table, reaches forward and places just a couple of his fingertips on the black folder in front of you. Is this the paperwork that we were expecting this evening, dude?
It is.
May I?
Please.
He slides it to the front of him and flips open the folder and starts looking through the paperwork.
While you're validating the documents, I have to ask, as a personal note, how do you tolerate this individual? And I kind of motion to Aster.
He does let out a bit of a sigh before continuing to just look at the paperwork. Business has strange bedfellows every so often. You deal with what you need to deal with if the end goal ends up working out for the both of you. And Aster just chuckles.
I look to Vera, and I just nod in understanding.
As he signs the last bit of paperwork and closes the folder gently and slides it back to you, Duke, Cesar continues. It was a pleasure to see you, my boy. I am glad to know that you still walk these streets and that your presence in New York is not lost. The city would certainly lose one of its greatest assets if you had.
Will you be far, or will I be able to contact you in the coming days?
Give me a time and a place. Now that we're doing business together and you need to speak with me, I'll make time. How about 1 week?
Understood.
Meet back here. I do enjoy this place, and my name is on the list. He looks to Arturo as Cesar stands from his chair and simply just gives him a nod and goes to leave without Arturo by his side, as Arturo is still sitting at the table, very much going back and forth between Vera and Duke with his gaze as the conversation continues. So is that it then? Our business is done. We're not even going to enjoy a dinner together. Long lost family, come together after many years. So much to catch up on. Hell, you died and came back to life. I'm sure that's a fascinating tale beyond just hunters knocked on your door. Shall we order food? Shall we spend time?
Oh, Arturo, as much as I'd like to spend your money, I prefer you eat dinner alone and choke on it.
Does Vera stand?
Yes.
As you do so, he just watches you walk away with this foe just shit-eating grin on his face. But then he looks over to Duke. Are you going to leave me too, Mr. Pemberton?
Premind.
Premind, Mr. Premind. Are you going to be staying as well? I'd prefer to call you. And he leans in. Mr. Kemper. And he gives you a wink.
Duke leans in. It's a shame you're not a woman.
He kind of sits back for a minute and he... Does Duke get up and leave at that? Or does he stay?
Linger for like 10 more seconds before standing and then leaving.
As you're like sitting there, he's like thinking about that and he's like, I don't know how I think I should feel honored. To be honest, if I was anybody else other than me, maybe even a little scared, Duke. I see why Vera keeps you around. So you can eat dinner with me.
Duke rises.
Slowly walks away. And you can, as you, out of the corner of your eye, as you walk by him, you can see his hands kind of go up in frustration and land on the chair nearby. And he mutters something to himself before Duke strides down the stairway, following Vera only 10 to 15 seconds behind. As Vera is outside, I imagine, waiting for Duke to go get the car. Oh, no, you probably told the valet to get the car. Valet goes out. And by the time Duke walks out the front door, the valet has pulled the Ford car up and hands the keys over to Duke. As both of you enter the car and make your way away from the restaurant. And as you all drive away, our vision rises above the city and blurs across many blocks toward the west side before plummeting down to street level again. And we see in a back alley, as a foot goes through a puddle and it sends a splash out, making a rat scurry under some garbage bags nearby, Sav walking seemingly by himself. Does Max want to have conversation with Sav along the way?
Yeah, I think so. He's going to be invisible.
He can still whisper talk.
He'll have a word in his ear. Yeah.
Do you normally talk to people by whispering in their ear? I don't know whether this is sexy or whether it is just weird.
Yeah, who's to say it can't be both? So tell me, what's your story, fella? I know you're part of Vera's old crew. Certainly heard enough about you guys.
You have. How long have you known Vera?
Few decades.
So
we go back. Matter of fact, we first met up when I helped her out with some of your, shall we say, associates.
Not so associated anymore, but I get what you mean. Are you the little piece on the side that she had while we were all trying to weasel our way into New York?
Nah, it ain't like that. We're just friends. Is that what you meant?
I'll believe you for now, but there was a time when she used to disappear a lot. I think I see the connection.
Yeah, I mean, how could she resist this mug, right?
Exactly.
Okay, Sava. I'm gonna level with you. If Vera says you're okay, then you're okay by me. Until you give me evidence that you're not okay. In which case, I'm gonna act upon that evidence, you understand? Nothing personal. And I'm not trying to intimidate you or nothing. Just stating the facts.
Fluffy teddy bear compared to some of the people I knew. So, I understand exactly what you mean. But I do want to make clear that I am not the same way that I was. When Vera got out, that caused a lot of problems, and I'm not going to go into detail because you don't need it. But she broke them. And I needed a way out. And being dead was a good way to do it. So I've been hanging around, thinking about Vera and Antoine and all of the people I killed. I don't really want to be like that anymore. So I'm hoping none of the things I do will make you want to kill me.
Fluffy teddy bear, huh? Yeah, well, maybe you're right. I do know the Sabbat's got some real pieces of shit floating around in its bowl.
They use their powers to mutilate and scar and abuse literally everything. I saw a man have all of his blood ripped out at the same time. Just like that.
Yeah, pretty traumatic, I'm sure. Well, that don't surprise me. Gustav always seemed to get along fine with the Sabbat, and that tells me all I need to know about them.
Does the name Gustav ring a bell?
The name Gustav does ring a very minor bell. You don't know much about them. In fact, you don't even know if they talk about the same person, obviously. But you've definitely heard that name back when you were running around as a Sabbat.
Yeah, old Gustav always kept his nose just clean enough that he wouldn't get on the Cam's bad side. But, yeah, he liked to play both sides of the fence.
If we're talking about the same guy, then... yes. He made some waves on our side of the fence as well.
Yeah, well, that's his way. As far as us talking about the same guy, looks like a big purple bat, but even uglier than me.
I never saw him, but I did hear. So, yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, well, count yourself lucky you didn't have to lay eyes on his mug.
Honestly, looking like a bat is the... I'm not... I keep on sounding like I'm trying to one-up you, but like, looking like a bat is normal. Like, these people tear the skin off their faces because they think it makes them scary. This is... it's, like, that's not good. Your face, however, I like.
Yeah, well, thanks. It makes it a little difficult to, go get a sandwich or something, Pick up a newspaper, that kind of thing.
Well, next time I'm at the shop, I will grab you something.
Yeah, I'm taken care of. But it's funny. A lot of these young Nas, they can pass off as having been in an accident or something. But as I once told an old friend of mine, when I walk into the room, it's like Bugs Bunny just showed up. There's no getting around it, no explaining it. You pretty much gotta kill everybody who saw you.
Bugs Bunny is very good at that. Do you also have an orchestral score?
Yeah. Alright. So, the question for you is, how good are you at keeping out of sight?
Extremely. You didn't know I was following you until I told you I was.
Yeah, fair enough. So, you might want to employ those particular skills. We don't want to be observed while we're observing, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. I'm not gonna kill anyone for Vera. But...
No, we're not killing nobody tonight, alright?
Good.
This is like, a woman and a kid, alright? We're not doing any of that.
Okay.
As you round out the nearest... Oh, please, go ahead, Josh. Sorry, I keep cutting you off because I can't...
No, that's right. There's lag. So we're just spying on them.
Yeah.
Okay.
We observe, we reconnoiter, or whatnot, and then we report back.
Easy.
As the two of you round out conversation and spill forth from the nearest alleyway out of this particular block and turn onto a very familiar street filled with close, tight houses that Mr. Larson has often lived on, There's the sound of a large truck ripping by the road as it passes by you. Can I get a quick wits perception? Wits awareness, rather.
Put dice into this time, Mathis.
Yeah, you actually are rolling a decent pool now. 3 successes and 4 successes. As this vehicle kind of just drives by you recklessly on this relatively empty street at this particular hour, it looked like one of those U-Haul trucks. More importantly, as it's driving by, you caught a glimpse of the inside the inside area where the driver and the passenger side would be. And as it rips by you, you swear you see what looks like a spatter, a liquid dark spatter on one of the windows that just clearly is blocking a lot of view, but it's hard to see the details. And as the both of you see this thing go by you, it goes down another half a block before you hear its brakes come on. It quickly pulls up to the curb, but maybe putting only its front 2 tires up on the curb, leaving the back 2 of the U-Haul off. And you watch from a distance as the back end of this U-Haul rolls open and 3 people hop out wordlessly. Two females and a male, and they reach into their pockets. One reaches into a backpack, and you very quickly see fire as it lights onto this bottle. They run up onto the sidewalk quickly, and one after the other, 3 get tossed at Larson's house. One crashes through a window, and you see flames billow out, while the other 2 hit the outside, one hitting a nearby wooden beam on the front door, as fire splashes outward as the alcohol all catches fire from this makeshift Molotov, and the flames land on the ground, and the other one hits the door, and you just watch the fire spread out. They quickly seem to be running back into the U-Haul, but before the 2 of you can make a decision, the scene freezes, and the screen begins to dim. And we'll see what happens next week as we pick up with Max and Sav watching Larson's home get firebombed. We'll see you then, everybody. Goodbye.
Oh, hi, mortals. It's me, Vera Volkov, here to ask you for a little favor. As you may know, the club is currently under renovations, and we could use all the resources to get back on our feet. You can help us by either joining our Patreon or visiting tpublic.com and getting your grubby little fingers on a custom Drac Pack t-shirt. Well, what are you waiting for?